Did you know that gun crime in the United States has been virtually cut in half since the early 1990s? Violent crime as a whole also almost cut in half since 1991. So why do we continue to try to limit people's individual freedoms and rights when studies show that these crimes are on a downfall in the United States? They're getting less and less frequent every day. Although the media would have you believe otherwise, the facts show that we do not have this issue as much as we did earlier in the 1990s. So today we're going to address how gun control will not prevent the mass casualty events from happening, mass shootings that we're having in the United States on a monthly basis, it seems like nowadays, from happening. So we'll cover who gun control laws actually affect. We'll cover how eliminating firearms won't prevent mass casualty events from happening, and what we can do to prevent future mass casualty events. What are some actual things we can do to prevent them that will actually work? So gun control laws, who do they affect? They affect your law-abiding citizens. They affect your people. I know it sounds cliche, but your people who obtain them legally, your people who are doing the right thing with them, who actually care about the law. Those people are affected by it. So personally, I have a Kansas concealed carry license, and I have a Springfield .45 caliber. I bought that at Dunham's about 2 days ago, and it took me about 10 minutes, which seems really crazy, right, that anybody can walk in. That permit took me about 1.5 years to get. I had to go through stringent background checks. I've never done anything wrong in my life, never been convicted of any crime, and I'm a highly trained military personnel. Still took me that long to get. They're very thorough. A criminal can buy that gun on the street in just as much time with no background check. So what we got to do is we got to address who these laws are actually affecting. The criminals don't care about the laws. They don't care what you say. They will get their hands on whatever they can get their hands on to kill people with illegally. The only people who care about laws are law-abiding people. Moving on to eliminating these firearms will not prevent mass casualty events from happening. You got to look at how people are killing people. So everybody thinks it's this AR-15, it's these handguns everywhere, it's these AK-47s. That's not statistically what we're seeing. The Boston bomber used a pressure cooker to kill and maim all the people that he did. 9/11 was performed using a passenger airliner, killed thousands of people with just an airplane crashing into two towers, and a box cutter, for that matter, not even a firearm. Most legally owned firearms are just used for the opposite of that. They're used for deterrence of these tragedies. You look at the incident in Texas, where somebody had to use an AR-15 to kill an active shooter. You look at all these times that people have their firearms as a deterrence to crime. 60% of people in the United States have their firearm for self-defense. It's the only reason they have it. So eliminating firearms won't prevent mass casualty events from happening because they will find bad people find another way to kill. They'll use all these methods that we have seen over the years, other than firearms. So what can we do to prevent future mass casualty events? We can increase the penalty for non-licensed firearms possession. We have cities like Chicago, Detroit that have terrible amounts of gun crime. The bulk amount of it in the United States is done in the inner city, which we still see on a decline even to this day. But we can increase the penalty. We can make it so if you're caught with a firearm, it's 20 years, it's some ridiculous amount of time for having an unlicensed firearm. You know you're doing the wrong thing, pay the punishment for it. Address the cultural attitude we have towards guns and their uses. So we have, and it sounds cliche, but video games, all these different outlets for firearms that make them seem as if a joke if they're play, and they're not. They're absolutely not. So I'm not saying get rid of them completely. I've played Grand Theft Auto, but address it. Address it in the game. Find a way to put it in there, that warning or whatever, that they're not a joke. They're not a joke at all. Increase the amount of trained personnel we have. So we have a lot of firearms owners who are trained, and then we have a lot that aren't trained. They have their hunting rifles or whatever. Make it easier access for these people to get training. I'm not saying government funded, but make it any way possible to train people more on how they can do it, on how they can legally have their firearm and legally defend people. So we covered who gun control laws actually affect. They don't affect the criminals, they don't care. We covered why eliminating them won't prevent mass casualties. 9/11, Boston bomber, on and on and on. And we covered what we can do to actually try and make a difference. I value life just as much as the next guy, and taking away people's guns is not going to be the answer. We covered all these methods. I challenge you personally, try and find a way. I'm open to conversation, everybody is. Try and find a way to do it, and look at the facts. Look at what actually matters when you're doing these things. Look at what guns do, how they're used, and look at the facts. I challenge you, always look at the facts. Don't believe what the media says. It's bogus. Look at the facts and how it's going to affect you, because that's what matters. Do you want, the next time a mass shooting happens, do you want to be on the receiving end of that and not have the guy to your right or your left have a gun? Do you personally not want to have a gun? Do you want no way to defend yourself at all? Think about that every time you advocate to take people's rights away.